One thing that was really hard is not being a builder. Of course, you don't know the consequences of choosing different kinds of roofing. It was overwhelming, I think, when you're trying to figure out all the things that have to be done, but also trying to figure out what we can decide later on. I didn't know this before. You couldn't just change from one cladding to another cladding.
Some would say, Jeff, you've got the dream semi-rural off the grid lot.
Well, it's nice of them to say that.
I think
It's
so.
working for us.
Yeah. I'm Josh, a builder here in New Zealand, and this is Jeff, my very first subscriber.
How are you?
Good thing. Guess what? I'm building Jeff a home.
Yeah, subscribe, you get a free house.
Now more than ever, it's important to lock in your big decisions early on, but that can be overwhelming. In this video, Jeff is going to talk about what he learned about the decision process. I'm going to talk about how I made decisions on my build, and Jeff is then going to finish giving us some examples of 3 big things he didn't realize he needed to talk about early on. Keep watching. So he's got the light box.
We're here on site, locked out.
Locked out.
But guess what? The house is closed in.
Well, that's why we're locked out, right? It's, yeah, it's nice to see it finally. Everything closed in, all the cladding up. It's kind of the point that the house has come together to be a house rather than a building site. I mean, it's obviously still looking like a building site, but it feels more like a house now, which is nice. But it's awesome to see the slab. Now you can figure out exactly how, or see exactly how big the house, and to see the frames up, because now you can walk through it. The roof on, because it adds that level of kind of closed in, and now the cladding's on. It means we can't get inside to the house, unfortunately. The frames are up, and so there was holes, you know, where the windows are going to go, so you could tell. But that was the thing that once the windows are in, so it's a nice kind of I don't know, solid confirmation that it's actually happening.
It's like that feeling of closed in,
Yeah.
like the wall being complete. Let's talk about the roof.
It is colour steel, and we did a little bit of research, but by no means plentiful, on different kinds. Well, one thing that was really hard is not being a builder. Of course, you don't know the consequences of choosing different kinds of roofing. We were looking at kind of a wide gapped roofing, if that's what it's called. It's probably not. But then Josh said you'd have to put another whole layer of ply underneath it to strengthen the roof to hold that. So that was an easy choice to get rid of that one, and we could do it. But it was another grand or two, which we didn't like it that much more. So it was mostly a financial decision in the end that we went for this one. We're happy with it. More than happy. It's a nice look. So it's a cathedral ceiling in the main living area, but it's built in a way so the inner kind of shape is a bit different to the outer shape, so they can still strengthen the roof across the gap. All the builders watching this will be shameful at my appalled at my terminology, I suspect, but this is layman's terminology trying to explain a building site, right? But yeah, it's quite clever. I haven't seen it before. My understanding is it means you can do it with a lot less steel, or sometimes no steel, which is a cheaper way to do it. Yeah.
I think one of the first things we chose was the roof colour.
Yeah, I think with the outside, working on those big bulky colours.
Yep, we got our samples for those. Didn't pick any of these ones, but from that, we got to pick our, what's that, joinery?
Yeah.
See how it was going to work with the roof,
And
the cladding.
so there was these samples. We went to Westview Aluminium and they gave us a bunch of aluminium samples, and these are the colour steel. And so you do those ones.
And then these are the roof samples.
And that helped us start to formulate a colour palette for the outside of the build.
Yeah.
So then when it came to the weatherboard, we were weighing up like the natural look versus a white patina look. But understanding how the rest of the house was going to look helped us make that decision, right?
And we knew that we wanted the roof to be dark and part of the paint to be dark, and then a contrast of a wood look.
It's so hard to go from a couple of boxes and lines on a piece of paper to this thing here. How's it going to look and how's it going to feel is so hard to know. And so one of the things Katie and I did was we jumped in the car and we drove around some of the new house subdivisions in our area.
Yeah, basically we just had a look at the colour schemes that we like and the contrast of different materials, and from there kind of thought about what we would want.
Lots of drive-bys, hanging out the window, taking snaps of people's houses.
Yeah, and I think one of the first things we picked was the roof colour. We went and saw houses in a new subdivision with different coloured roofs that we thought we might like. Riveting getting to pick a roof colour.
Well, you got to start somewhere.
But it helped, yeah, it helped.
You literally do have to start with something.
Yeah.
Either start with the roof or the walls. You hold your winds up. That's actually probably good. Which one?
None of those.
I think we've nailed it. Time for a coffee.
Sort of dark coloured roof.
We've shamelessly gone for a popular look, knowing that at some point in the near future it'll be out of fashion, but we might as well enjoy it while we can. But also the dark look with the teak coloured pine, which is really nice for the setting we're in the middle of the bush. Helps it blend in a little more than going for a lighter coloured traditional house.
Were those early decisions in the process?
Yeah, they had to be insofar as the roofing and then this kind of cladding where the colours had to be locked in. In fairness, the linear oblique, even now if we wanted to, I suppose we could change the eventual colour of that because it's just paint, but the stuff that isn't painted at the end we have to decide quite a bit earlier. And so that was absolutely the roofing. So once you've signed off the floor plan and that's off for the more detailed drawings, then that's when Josh walked us through. Here are the things you're going to have to lock in now.
It means that wardrobe door, because you can't either the floor plan stays at 185. Well, yeah, and she can update them easily.
The cladding and where it was, like the kind of cladding had to be locked in before that. How they do the framing and behind it I think is dependent on that. But in terms of then to start ordering at that point, and especially with the delays at the moment, I know Josh wants to get in and order things as soon as he can so that we're not having delays on site.
So cladding is arriving today. We pre-booked that months ago.
So it was overwhelming, I think, more trying to figure out all the things that have to be done, but also trying to figure out what we can decide later on and what we have to put our headspace to initially. Once we knew what we had to decide, we could focus on that. I mean, in theory, you can change anything, right, at any point, but you don't want to. So the right fireplace had to be in there for the consent process. So that was one that was early on that we didn't expect. We didn't have to order the fireplace, but just know what one it was so it could be drawn into the plans. I didn't know this before, you couldn't just change from one cladding to another cladding. That would lead to some redesign for Prime. We've touched on this in one of the other videos, but knowing whether it's going to be patio or decking outside did change some things, and therefore whether we could recess or not recess the doors. it seems obvious now, but I wouldn't have realised you could just put the patio at the same level, you know, more or less without putting some kind of, I think it was a drainage down the middle.
Yeah, and then paying to build up all this concrete, all the work to build this up for concrete, and where's the water going and all of that. Whereas a deck, you can kind of like use the lay of the land.
And it's a nice